handicapped. God. This is the great power in the light work and in your physical bodies that you are only now getting a glimpse of how to use in the most practical ways to assist humanity and the earth herself. Attempting to clear the many factions of lower vibrating energies also flowing through people is no easy task, because free will law was held in such high regard. I should talk a little bit about that. We can concur that this path has taken humanity on a wild ride that included thousands of years of pain, suffering, and living in a much more limited existence than ever was intended. We, the councils and overseers, have been cautious to allow this process to unfold and be returned to the golden age through humanity's unified efforts. From the many souls that agreed to continue the work by reincarnating and bringing these energies back into the Earth's physical dimension. So now that gets into reincarnation. If I stand here and tell you I don't believe, shoot me now. Because it's the souls coming back to bring the higher energies back. The low ones too are coming back to do their little thing. But it's the light frequency code people that are coming back from the Atlantean time, from the Anunnaki time. Because remember, the Anunnakis started low vibrational control ways, but now they're not. So if any of the Anunnaki soul energy wants to come through a human that wants to carry the higher frequencies, they can do that. That's another thing people don't really understand. But all these different frequency groups have the option to come into human form and can be part of the evolutionary period we're in the physical world. I'm getting the ones that are not, that are not in physical form, but they, we can be a mix of different races. Okay. As you can understand now, many of you that perished during that time, the Atlantean time, and even multiple times as you returned to assist the evolution of that time, it wasn't all negative, bad, and manipulative. There were truly great and high energies being utilized to help the race advance and live quite enjoyable and powerful lives. The advancements in research and technology have not been seen since. That's kind of interesting. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Let's take a break with this for a sec, because
I do.
there's a lot here.
Talking about the reincarnation and the previous souls coming back, reincarnating, and the light codes and whatnot, and I do believe in that. There's some opinion that it's not always like being reborn, starting from an infant again. Sometimes be a walk-in, and I wondered if you've ever had any
That is such.
information about that.
Her question is about walk-ins. Like, does the soul have to come in and start from birth? And
Because things are speeding up.
that
So
is
the
a.
assistance. So I'm just wondering if you ever had any input from that.
So let's take a look at that. So there's, just like every subject matter, humans have their own definitions of what they think something is. So I can only give you my take in this very moment since you asked the question, because this could change tomorrow.
Sure.
That's how the information is. It sounds good, and then something else will change it. But I would say the definition of walk-in that I like is a continuation of what I just said. If there are higher beings and a soul feels done with this particular lifetime, there's a great movie, a TV show called The Travelers on Netflix. Did you see that? Did you see it? That show was really good. It looks like walk-ins, but it's not, doesn't explain it that way at all. It's an alien race from the future that decides to come in to a human body at the moment of death. Because in the future, like in the Akashic records, everything's already recorded. So they can look back at us at this time. It's a fascinating, I mean, you got to admire the writers of this stuff. How do they think of this shit?
They channel.
That's what, well, I don't know, do they know they're channeling? I want to sit down with these writers. Do you know you're channeling, or did you just sit there and go, I got a great idea. Let's do these ETs that go back into bodies. I mean, and it's so methodically done. It's such a clever idea. They're downloaded into a body at the moment our soul leaves. And then they're on a mission. It's not a joke. The whole thing is they're here to do something, to stop cataclysmic events and things. It's a fascinating show. So in terms of a walk-in, that's the definition I like. I like that if someone might feel done with this life and made an agreement to let go of this life, and then some other higher soul comes in. Now, I know there are possessions. That's not a walk-in. A possession is when you open yourself up to lower entities. That's why I'm really not an advocate for drinking and drugs. Because when you do anything, that, even pharmaceuticals, when you do anything that alters your mentality and you start checking out, you have now opened yourself up to something, and who the hell knows what it's going to be? Who knows what creepy crawlers are looking around to play with a human body? You know, you have to be somewhat evolved as a soul to not allow that to happen. That's why I never became a trans channel. I didn't want any entities taking over my body except Jesus. He always has permission. If there's an emergency and he needs to jump in because I'm not fast enough, then he can do that. But I don't feel open to everybody. I really don't. I said that early on when I started getting the messages. I said, I chose this body this lifetime, and you'd have to give me a damn good reason to become a trans channel, because I'm too happy with what I got going on. And that's when I committed to this. Just give me the words, I'll write, I will share anything wherever you want to share it, but this is my body. Now, even though I'm saying that today, watch what happens. There'll be some here, oh, I'm a trans channel now, I got a new YouTube channel, you know. I mean, everything is such a joke, you know, you say one thing one day, and it's like, I can't even keep up with my own evolution. So, let's see. Let's see, I want to get past this one. So, any more questions? Is that okay?
No, it's totally, I've just been contemplating it lately because, I don't like ever being in a box, so I thought, well, I'm open to the possibility of that because there's so much that I don't know, and I always believe there's way more good than there is bad.
And who's to say that none of us are walk-ins and don't know it?
Right, and I don't.
Who's to say I'm not a conglomerate? And there's a message about this, actually, about you clearing your old self and kind of being uncomfortable because you don't even know what the new you looks like. Does anybody relate to that experience?
Totally.
That you're changing so much from the inside, and then you start looking at yourself and you're like, I don't really know this person.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable yet. Like, what's this person gonna do? Which is almost like a walk-in, like they landed, it's like, okay, I got a body now. What am I gonna do with this? But it's not the same, but I'm just saying it's similar, you know, in your own evolution. And why does that happen? Because at some level you committed to clearing things, these programs, all the stuff you've already heard, these programs, the church teachings, whatever it is that you were locked into that kept you in a box, that you finally let go of, that released from your DNA, that released from your body, that you definitely don't believe in, and then there's a void. Especially the more decades you lived that way, the bigger the void feels when you let that go. That's a huge void. But I always did it that way. But then but I can't do it that way. It's a strong clash of yesterday and today. And it's a very strange feeling, and nobody really talks about this. I haven't found anybody on the internet talking about this experience, because everybody that I see online is so sure of themselves, and those are the most annoying people I have seen yet. There are so many people on YouTube that are so sure of what they're doing, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for the shit to hit your fan. Because it just doesn't. Spiritual evolution does not work this way. You can't lock into something. Well, I'm sorry. Let me be fair. Some people can lock into something and carry it through a whole lifetime. My perception of that, owning how I see it, is it's a limitation. I'm not saying that is fact. I'm just saying that's how I see that. Because in my own experience, as soon as I cling to something and believe that's it, it's taken away. And you're like, where'd it go? I love that thing. And it's gone. And that's part of my annoyance in this lifetime, is how things just disappear.
We were taught at Unity that it's hell in the hallway. And I've been experiencing this since the pandemic, when it stopped everything that was a diversion. And hell in the hallway is when all the doors behind you are closed and the one in front of you has an open jet. And you can scratch and cling and break your nails, and that door will not open.
Right.
And that's where I have been for so long. I am so frustrated.
Yep. Well, when you said things feel so flatline, that phrase went through my body like the ultimate truth that I didn't want to hear. It's so, sometimes Jan says things and they're so true. It's almost like she's got a little finger and she's poking me as she's talking, and she's like, I believe it, and I go, like the earth shook,
Think how my cats feel. They've all I got.
And they're getting it all day long when you're home. So it's just, it's just amazing how we go through these things, and the people that are staying busy, they don't even have a chance to contemplate what the next thing is, because they're still just trying to keep what they have afloat, right? Sometimes it's good to let that boat sink. And that's another part of that. I didn't use this analogy in the last talk, but really another umbrella thing under the COVID umbrella is things had to sink. They just had to, and they're still sinking, right? So some of these new guys over here, what's going on with you guys? Questions? Interesting? Ridiculous? Does anything make sense?
How do you let go of things that you would like to release, like loss of a family member or something like that?
I knew there was wisdom on this side of the room. I just was waiting for it to come out. That is a perfect question. Because the one thing that I learned about this life is everything is about letting go. There's nothing to hold on to here. Even though that's what we do, that's like the human condition. We want to hold on to everything, right? But your specific question was a loved one. Now, that's a good question for me, because that's my world, right? I don't have to let go of any loved ones because they're all bothering me. That's the one. See, that's the benefit of studying spirituality and sitting down and writing from spirit. The benefit of that is they're always there. And it's not a thought, it's a fact. That all you have to do is ask your loved one a question and you can get the answer. Case in point, I don't think I was talking about these young guys the last time I was here. There's a friend of mine who helps young guys on heavy-duty drugs get off he has a rule. You can join the group as long as you get off the heavy drugs, but they smoke a lot of pot. They're allowed to do the pot, but no heavy drugs. Because they were destroying their system, and he's trying to get them on some kind of track without being too demanding and trying to force them. He tries to do it with love and just get them to realize that they can let go of some of this behavior. So one of the guys is a 26-year-old Aries, and all tattooed, typical Aries, rebellious, to society. And he tells me a story. He's on his way to work. Now these kids are not the most spiritual. They have a natural spiritual connection because they're young and it hasn't been totally destroyed yet by society, but they still have fear because they're young. So he's going to work in his truck, and his co-worker's brother is sitting in the passenger seat talking to him because he just died, like over the weekend. And he's like, listen, when you get to work, my brother's going to be there, and he's going to be talking to Joe, the other coworker, and they're going to be talking about me. He's like, what? he's driving. He's getting all shooken up, right? It's like, what the hell's going on here, But he wanted to give him a heads up and let him know that he was here so he could tell his brother, hey, your brother was just in the truck on the way to work. I guess he's fine, because he was talking to me. So that's the benefit of doing this kind of work, because that's where those answers come from. You don't need a minister to tell you. The only reason that I do, one of the main reasons that I do this is an example of what's possible. That's why I'm here. I don't have to sell you on this. I really don't give a shit who believes anymore. I don't. Why should I care?
No reason.
I used to care too much, right? And now I'm like, I can't fix this place. Humans fucked up the earth, right? They messed it up. But I can share this. I can share my piece of the puzzle and hopefully stimulate other people. Maybe you. Maybe you're the one that's going to walk out of here and go, I'm going to try this shit. And get his pad. Did your wife die? Is that who?
Yes, my wife, a girlfriend, and my daughter.
Oh.
So I've had 3.
Yeah, I was focused on your wife was the first one. Because she's the one that hovers around you.
Did you know Sherilyn?
Huh?
Sherilyn Peebler?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, her name is Carolyn, my first wife, my wife.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I thought you knew Sherilyn.
Yeah.
So
Did
who's
did
Sherilyn?
you ever meet Sherilyn Peebler?
I don't remember. I might have.
She's a great medium and
Yeah.
did a lot of work.
Her spiritual.
Oh, and that was
She's my friend.
she was your friend. Okay, that's a friend. Not the girlfriend.
No,
But the wife is the one she's the one that's on my vision as I'm looking to your left.
yeah,
On your
she's
left side.
been around me all the time for many years now.
And do you ever hear anything? Do you ever notice anything?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I see things, hear things.
So getting back to your question, you said, how do you let go? You already had a best friend that was a medium, and you feel your wife. So let's go a little deeper with that question. What do you really want to know? Because you already know this is all true. We don't have to go there.
I just want to complete letting go. I'm spiritualist and everything. I believe in afterlife and all of that stuff too for many, many years, forever almost. But when you have a sudden loss, you have to go through the grieving process and all. It's just trying to complete that grieving process and let it be what it is and be okay with it, to know that she's where she's supposed to be in the afterlife. And I haven't had good connection with her yet, since she passed.
And who's that?
That's my daughter.
Daughter.
Yes. So, just trying to ease my mind and open myself up. I'm usually open, very positive to anything, listening to that. Even my little dog that passed years ago, he comes running through the house all the time and peeking around the corners and looking at me. And
Isn't this great to hear from a man? Yeah. Finally, another man who gets it. God, you don't know how refreshing this is, YouTube, to have a man in the audience who gets it. So, but this is really important. This is really a crux of being alive, because people leave us, right? We all have to go through this. So it's a really good human question. How do we get okay with somebody that's crossed over? And it's an interesting question for me because I cry all the time. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with grief. I cry all the time. I cried this morning over David Cassidy. I'm playing this upbeat music from him and going, all right, I'll bring the stuff and I'll do the songs, and then I'm crying again. So I don't know. I really don't know what this happens a lot. It happens on video, and I get really embarrassed. I'm like, I'm not going to edit. I'm not good at that. So I just keep plowing through, even though I'm crying. So let's see if we can get a better answer, though, because that was not helpful at all.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
I was in a relationship off and on for 16 years with someone, and they passed in May really quickly, unbeknownst to me, because we were in a SNIT. And I found that what really helped me was having a writing from Salvatore. He brought this person in, had a reading with them, gave me this piece. The person sent me a song, and I mean, it just really, really helped me with closure and letting go. Like it was wonderful. I mean, for me, after a 16-year relationship, whatever it was, and it was closure to hear what he had to say on the other side. I didn't want an apology. I didn't get that. I mean, he'd rather die.
He did.
But I mean, it was very helpful. For losing someone.
So, I didn't even have that in my conscious mind, because May seems like another lifetime ago already. So
really helped.
It really gets back, it all comes back to the same answer I gave before. You keep doing the spiritual work until you're okay. And it might be a visit in your car where she just shows up, says 3 things, or you see a vision, and you're like, oh, I got it. That's it. It could be a blink of an eye. It could be a second of just some little thing, right? And because you've got so much in your foundation already, which is just a miracle. I'm so glad I turned to you guys and asked what was going on over there. That was a divine intervention, right? Get away from that a minute. Let's go see what's going on this side of the room. So, I would just, since you already know about your wife and you're very aware of her, why don't you ask your wife, this is what was, when you were talking, I thought, why don't you ask your wife to bring her in? Because sometimes they come in pairs or groups, and then you can have a powwow. I'm going to give you another fun story because I lost my wife in another life, and I still grieve her. To answer that question, I don't know if grief ever goes away. Because I did a writing from her, I had a vision of her. I had this beautiful vision, and I did share it in a group here. I don't remember when. It was probably before COVID. I had a beautiful vision of a very cowboy lifetime with a like a log cabin kind of place to live. And I remember her being the love of my life. I did read it. It might have been March 20, 19 when this all started? It might have been the last group. I brought that written message here from her. Her name was Lily. And I had this beautiful vision of this lifetime, and that I loved her. And the Indians, they were still fighting with Indians at that time. It was a part of our history, right? And we had a beautiful son. That was the only kid I had with her. And he was a doll. He was probably like 4 years old. In the vision, he was 4. So I said, oh, I need to get a message from you. And she told me about our life. But while I was still in the vision, I remembered my son seeing her and yelling, Daddy, Mommy's here, after she died. So that told me my soul understood spirit in another time. I already had this connection. There were many other times that my soul knew about spirit, but this was a very earth-bound experience that I had a similar experience to what I have now, right? So that's interesting how pieces of our soul, get to play with the same energies we knew another time. So I go into the living room, and we have stone fireplace, really rustic cabin. And I see her. Because first you think, well, what does he see? You know, I'm the adult. I don't believe yet, right? So my son sees it, I walk in, there she is, and we sit down and she visits me periodically to talk to us about the other side. I mean, if that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. Really. And here we go. Gotta have a wave. But isn't that amazing? This is a woman that I knew a couple of 100 years ago, and I can still cry over her. And this time I'm gay. I'm not even into women. But the love thing is still that strong. That I can go into that lifetime and relive it and love every second I had with my son and my wife.
Love never dies.
It never dies, right? So, you know, it's really hard for me to answer your grief question because I don't think I'm done grieving. Now, I do believe I'm done with certain people's grief. That I think I've got. But as you know, over the course of time, like when my godmother died in 2014, that was a shock. I don't know what the Candelaros are doing. But now, my father's generation, they're deciding to drop like flies fast. So nobody gets a heads up. And it started with my grandmother. She died really fast. And then it happened to a cousin, one of my father's cousins, then it happened to my father's sister, and they just croaked. I was like, we didn't even have a chance to do anything, you know. And then I get angry. I'm Italian from New Jersey, so of course my first MO response is, I am pissed off. You know, how dare you? That's what I do. And most of you know me. That's how, you know. That's another. That part has not cleared, by the way. If it has to clear this lifetime, it's not done yet. It still comes up, but I do feel much more clear on the grief of that godmother, my father's sister. But when it first happened, I could not function. It was the summer, I was in Colorado. I'd be in restaurants and just lose it in the restaurant. And that's one thing about me, I don't like crying in public and I don't like crying on video. And guess what? That's exactly where it happens. It happens at home too, but it always will happen, and it happens in public a lot. And I don't even know what triggers that. But yeah, I would be calling in your daughter. See, now we're talking about your daughter, but I still see your wife. Now usually if we talk about your daughter, she would just, you know, be screaming in, interrupting me, and she's not. I don't know if she's extra shy or polite, or I don't know what is going on there. But maybe if I just take a breath, let me shut up, if that's possible.
What?
Because the last time we were here, her son showed up crystal clear, and we didn't even plan it.
I got another question.
Okay.
Since my daughter passed away, it's just only been in April, I've found out that my spiritual self has seemed to be shrunk down a little bit. I've lost a little bit of the energy of connecting to the other side. And I don't know if the grief is kind of suppressing that a little bit. So my question is, I want to get back into meditation again and connecting to the other side again more strongly. And is there things I can do now to get over this little period of grief and all? I'm over my wife and I'm over Sherry Lynn, my friend, and now just my daughter Lucy is just recency. So I'm just trying to reconnect back to my spirituality and to touch base with the other side.
There's a few key words that he said, and I hear impatience with you, and you're trying to make something happen, but you know better. There's a process to everything, and there's a natural timeline to everything that we should not mess up, right?
Okay,
So we can, let's do a meditation right now and see, I'm gonna guide something, and let's see what happens. I'm gonna walk around the room. Remember I used to do this? Let's close our eyes and take some breaths, but I want you to do breaths on your own, and I want you to consciously drop your shoulders, relax your hips, maybe focus on the word relax, and I want you to feel your body let go. And let's just stay with that for a couple moments. Just breathing and just letting everything drop. And then letting the mind quiet. If you want to use the word quiet or the phrase quiet the mind, then just let the mind relax. And start letting all thought just evaporate. If you need a word to focus on to help you, then focus on one word, whatever word you want that brings that sense to you. You want to find the ways to do this on your own at any time. So we're breathing, the body's dropping, the mind is relaxing. And I want us to see if we can bring some clarity in our own vision and connection. And see who comes to you first. As you open your mind and your spirit and your heart is just expanding in this beautiful golden light. This is your soul's light, this is your essence beyond anything else. This is what you're carrying in the body. This is what you chose to carry. It's your essence, your light, your purest part of you. And as that heart opens and that relaxes and opens up and that light expands, then just request. Request someone to show up for you. And don't hesitate. As soon as you know who that is, acknowledge that. Person, Master, Holy One. And if you're not sure, if there's one that you specifically want, like your daughter, just focus on her name. I am open to receive. A lot of this talk was about opening to receive, committing to your spirit, clearing the old, becoming the new.
I'm hearing my wife, Carolyn, she says she's watching over Lucy now. And she says, I give you one word, listen. Quiet your mind and listen.
So let's follow his lead. If you know who came to you first, say their name, and if you have anything you want to share, just let it out. Let's play with this. Let's play with the energy. Let's play with the spirit. Who's here for you?
Okay.
Yeah, just say it.
My mother.
Your mother. And if you want to share more, go ahead. If you hear the phrase or words, somebody, you might get a sense. Maybe you just feels like I'm getting a heart thing right now.